Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vibes at Alma podcast. Here I am back. Oh my god, it's been so long, I feel like. But regardless, here we have another beautiful episode, and this one's about the sisterhood wound community. We talk about a lot of beautiful things that we can go through not only alone but with other women that can support us, and for us to also hold space for other women so we can support them. And this is with the Sacred Uprising, which is a community of women that are here to just uplift women, uplift sisterhood, uplift community, and help people find their sovereignty. And you're going to get to learn more about them throughout this whole episode, this beautiful episode with Christina and Heather. And I'm just really excited for you to get so much beautiful insight and wisdom and just getting your soul being stirred through the shares that we'll be uncovering here in this episode. But regardless of that, before we begin, I also want to remind you that if you're listening to this on YouTube and you're watching this video, make sure that you click on like and subscribe. And if you feel like there's someone that you know that might love this conversation or might want to hear this conversation, you feel like might need this conversation at this time regarding sisterhood and community, go ahead and share this with them so that way they can see. But without waiting too much longer, let's go ahead and get started with the episode today. Hello, everyone. So, on this episode, we have Christina and Heather, who are co-creatresses of the Sacred Uprising. The Sacred Uprising is a space to gather a community of sovereign sisters close so that way they can keep rising and build a more sovereign life within every sister in the community, and to discover and pioneer a new way forward, a way that will positively impact future generations and the world that we all live in. Christina is a registered holistic nutritionist, a yogi, a reiki lover, a community builder, and forever student of holistic wellness, healing modalities, natural medicine, sovereign living, and she does conscious parenting as a mother of 2 boys. Heather is a nutritionist, healing one bloated belly at a time, which I thought was hilarious. I'm like, that's me. I'm a bloated belly. Anyways, with a strong focus towards ancestral eating and the sacredness of food and the ritual around it. She's also a mother who homeschools her daughter. So I'm very excited to see you guys. We connected through a Telegram chat, and it just seemed very aligned. There were a lot of things that called me to you guys when I saw your work with the Sacred Uprising, the same way that there were some things that called you to me as well with the podcast work that I've done. And I'm really excited to have you guys here.
Thank you
Thanks
for
having
having us.
Yes. So the first question that I have is, what got you started on your spiritual journey? And I guess I'll give over the floor or the mic to Christina, and then Heather, you can go ahead and answer your side.
Yeah. Thank you for having us, Ashley. This is lovely. So my spiritual journey, this really started from like as far as I can remember. I have always sort of, I grew up in a home where there was a lot of prayer. I prayed to God. As a baby, I was baptized in a Pentecostal church, went to Christian churches growing up. We always prayed. And my mom she was sort of unconventional as well, in the sense that, she would, like, we would always, like, I always understood that there was another realm. And at a young age, I was very in tune with that. But also it scared me. And because at the time when I was younger, I didn't really know how to protect myself.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really even know how to ask for, like, what do I do to, like, protect myself? I just really tried to shut it off. But yeah, I grew up, growing up, my mom's best friend was a witch. We and then, a little bit in, like, my early teens, I ended up living in an indigenous community. We called it the Res at the time. Not many white girls get to live on like in an Indigenous community. So that was really quite a wild and beautiful experience. And I feel like then it was, if I was able to go to some really incredible and beautiful ceremonies and just be really immersed into the culture. And I think if I ever had any doubt that there was another realm, that really anchored it in for me, for sure. Um, so there was a lot of different pieces of my childhood of different sort of different beliefs, different spiritual outlooks, faiths, beliefs, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, so I feel like it was always just really around me. And prayer has always just really been big for me. And then even I think later on, so in my 30s and in my now like early 40s, I feel like I'm really starting to just really anchor in to and get a little bit more clear about getting to know my guides more and trusting my intuition more. I mean, all along, I've, just incredible divine timing and just different events that have happened in my life, and knowing that they're not coincidences and that I've been divinely guided and supported and yeah, so I guess it's just a long story to say. I feel like it's just been like a part of my journey for my whole life. And I feel like really now it's, in my later years, it's been just really from a more embodied place and have some more and now I have an idea of when I was younger, I said that I didn't know how to protect myself from all the spirits that might have been surrounding me. And then now having a better idea of that. Also, when I went through my Reiki training, that was really powerful as well, actually, for me uh, to channel the energies and really have a good understanding of how to protect myself as well. Um, yeah, so I'm still on my journey. It's an ongoing,
A lifelong thing.
lifelong thing.
Yes, that's very beautiful to see like the trajectory of your life and how you grew up in a Pentecostal household or like a
I don't even know if I don't even know why I was baptized in a Pentecostal church. I actually don't even, I think we did go to a Pentecostal church, but we went to a lot of different like Christian, what if you want to call it denominations, there's a lot of different ones. And um, I won't say like we were devout like Christians or anything, but just definitely wanting to be a part of community and prayer. And I think that was a big draw for my mom for sure. Um, my mom was a cradle Catholic. Um, and it's so interesting because now I'm married to a Catholic as well. And we're raising our two boys Catholic with the understanding that Mama has like some different views on spirituality and all that. So
Heather, would you like to talk about your spiritual journey and the start of it and where you're at now?
Yeah. I grew up very different, whereas there wasn't a lot of like prayer in our home, but I grew up in a very small town where everyone just went to church. That was just what you did. And so I grew up going to church every Sunday, but never really, and I don't think I could have explained, I can explain it now, but at the time I couldn't really explain it. But I never really felt God in the church that I went to. Like it just, and this is not to put down any churches or anything like that, or like people that really have embraced their church in that way. But for me, it just like I didn't feel that there. It was something that as kids growing up we had to do. But something that I realize now was that I grew up on this acreage, like out in the middle of Alberta, Canada. And my parents lived right on a river. And I would go like out into like onto the prairies, into the river all the time and just sit and just be like, even as like a child at a very young age. And I realized that's where I was feeling God, where I was feeling like, and I couldn't explain it at the time. I didn't know why. It just felt so good to just sit and like be in that vibration, but it did. And now fast forward, you know, decades later, I currently live on, you know, Christina and I both live on the West Coast, and I live right on a river in like beautiful forests. And I go literally right before we got onto this call, I went into the forest, like right by the river, and like took like 10 breaths just to like reground in after like a busy morning. And I realized that this is where I feel it deeply, is in nature. And so that's something that I've been leaning more and more into. And then as, you know, through the years of like, I've had different exposures to things like, you know, obviously yoga was like a way that I kind of got into it. That's not my path right now, but it was at the time a way of just like honoring more of the seen world and the unseen world, you know, like as you know, and I've just been kind of like going further and further, but I feel like I've always known that there, you know, that there was something beyond us, something beyond like us here, and that there was something helping us, and that there was, you know, to have this trust and to have this faith. I feel like there's always been that inner knowing for me, even though I didn't really grow up in an environment where that was really relevant, or that it was like very, like we didn't grow, like I didn't grow up like praying before meals or like anything. That was just never something that was like God wasn't even talked about in the house. It was very much we went to church because that's what you did in this small town. Every Sunday, everyone went to church. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
that's exciting. I definitely resonate with not feeling God in the church. I was raised Catholic. So I feel like a lot of, well, everybody in Puerto Rico for the most part, because I'm from Puerto Rico, is Catholic. So I was raised Catholic, and I started being a part of the church once we moved to Florida, because that's where my parents found community by just going to the Catholic church over here after leaving, you know, their family and friends from Puerto Rico. And I remember I was really into the church for like about a year and a half, 2 years. And this is something silly. I went through like a very bad breakup. And I've always seen people walk to the back of the church and go into the place where they keep the Eucharist and like overnight, and like and the lock and key in the box. And I was like, well, people say they feel God there, so let me just go there and find some peace. I sat there and I was like, I don't feel anything. Like, all right, let me pray. I prayed. I kind of breathed a little bit. And after like 15 minutes, I'm like, nope, still don't. All right. And then that's the day that I decided that I was going to start pulling away from the church and try to find a different thing that could bring me that peace. And then after many years of experimenting, I've been able to find that. And I don't think that you can ever tell someone that your path is wrong if your path brings you unconditional love and peace and compassion to your everyday living. So that's just something that is nice to be able to see people go through. But I do have a question for Christina. We're gonna talk about, you know, sacred sisterhood a little bit, you know, and all of that stuff. But before we get there,
Yeah.
I want to ask you about raising children with two different belief systems in a household, because I don't think a lot of people get to talk about that enough, and provide maybe what you've gone through, trials, tribulations, a good compromise, whether or not you feel like you have it figured out, like you have it more figured out than other people that are listening to this. So I would love to see what you have to say.
Yeah. So when I met my husband, I met him over like I think 23 years ago now. We've known each other for a really long time. And when we first met, like, okay, fast forward to he proposed. Let's start there. He actually thought that we had to get married. He thought that I actually had to become Catholic to marry him. I guess that was just his belief, and that's just what he knew. And I said, I'm not going to become Catholic. There's no way that I would start our marriage on a lie. Like, integrity and truth and honesty is everything for me. And I don't think that he was trying to say lie or anything by any means, but he was just, well, like, we want to get married and just become Catholic. But it's not as easy as that. Like, this is like, that would be such, it would be such a big initiation, and I couldn't do anything if I was like my whole heart. And so I said, no, I'm not going to become Catholic. Like, can we figure something else out? And so he actually looked into it and he realized, oh, you actually don't have to become Catholic. And I was like, great. Because that wasn't going to happen, especially not in those, in that sort of context of like, I have to become Catholic. And I'm in an age, but, we're in a time where I can make those choices freely without danger or whatever. And so he said, okay, yeah, you don't have to actually become Catholic. But I in order for me to be Catholic, we have to get married in a church. And I was like, that's cool. I can totally do that. And we, and I think I actually had to be baptized in order to be married in the church as well. So it was good thing that I actually had been baptized when I was younger. And so one of the things that when we got married as well, that one of the agreements is that we had to raise our children Catholic. And so it was something that I agreed to with him under the understanding that our children would always know and understand that mama, it wasn't a bad thing that mama wasn't Catholic. It wasn't mama just has a different set of beliefs. I actually do believe in God. The creator, divine, like, it's to me this beautiful, powerful, all being energy. And I've always prayed to God. That's just the label that I have used. I also use creator as well. That was a big part of my upbringing as well, and it resonates with me. So does the divine. And so we had this understanding that our children would always know that I believed in something else, like not specifically the Bible. That being said, I do have a relationship with Jesus as well. And I feel like in the last little while, it's definitely like my relationship with him has definitely strengthened. Also really curious about this relationship that I have with Mary Magdalene as well. So there's some beautiful pieces and in the Bible and all of it. And so now, as we, our children are older, my husband has always been the one to bring the boys, because we have two boys, that bring them to church, and they're actually very proud to be Catholic. And there's actually the fact that it's like a father figure. There's actually statistics about if the father is the one to like be really involved in their faith, there's something there that like really kind of anchors it in for them, especially with boys and their dad. And I love that for them. And they know that I do all this like woo-woo stuff and spiritual stuff and, Reiki practitioner. I'm also like a yoga teacher, and that's just the reality. I think that it's not, it's that it's just the reality. They've always grown up. My husband is incredibly supportive of just the way I am. He knows that he married a wild, free spirit, and I used to call it what is it, like Christinaism. Like it's just like I've got my own religion or faith or spirituality. Because it's like multifaceted. And yeah, I think that ultimately the boys just have this understanding. And it's interesting now that I am like substitute teaching in a Catholic school, which is actually really beautiful as well to be immersed in the community and getting to know a bit of the Bible and getting to know about the Bible more and the teachings in it, and also having like I'm looking at it from a different lens of all the things I know about like the cosmos and like what's said in the Bible and the lens that you're reading it in, and how it talks about like the connection we have with literally all our relations with the trees and the waters and the winds and the stars and like everything. So it's pretty neat to be able to also like I pray with my boys every night from it's this book called Jesus Calling. And yeah, I love that they have this this multi-dimensional way of seeing spirituality, faith, religion, whatever.
Yeah, it's
If
a
that's a
very
long answer.
no, it's good. It shows the open-mindedness and the open-heartedness that has been fostered with, again, kind of like what I had mentioned earlier of like, as long as it provides you peace and love and compassion, like that's really what should be looked upon, not like, oh, you're doing it wrong. Am I doing it wrong if I feel love?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I also will add to going back a little bit to the wedding. So we did get married in a church, but also like right from the very get-go, we had a ceremony a week before we had a wedding in a cathedral. It was beautiful, one of the most beautiful days in my life. And the week before, we had another ceremony, and we had an Indigenous elder, my uncle, who came up from down south, and he led this incredible, beautiful, traditional Mexica wedding for us on my parents' land. And he honored that too. So we had both of we were honoring both, and he
Oh, that's so nice. That
compromise.
Yes, compromise.
Compromise.
Yes. That visual was just kind of like two different cultures merging, which is what true religions and belief systems are, and just being open to them. That's very, very beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So you both are the co-creatresses of the Sacred Uprising. So, Heather, would you like to tell us a little bit about what the Sacred Uprising is?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I don't even know where we start. I think we start with our origin story. I feel like that's just like where we begin. And we started like Christina and I met during the height of the wildness of the last few years. And we actually kind of had mutual friends, but never had connected. But then saw each other mask free in a grocery store, and like just moths to a flame joined. And at that point in time, I had been hosting secret sister circles in my in the womb of my home, as I call it. It's like the ground level of our home. And I've been like hosting these secret ones for weeks at that point, just because it was such a time of such division and against like community, almost like the opposite of community and unity. And so I invited Christina, and we're in this circle, and Christina walks in, and she like knows almost every single other woman in there. Like just like it was just meant to be. It was just like soul sisters finding each other again and remembering. And so Christina and I don't even know how it kind of came to be, but during the during this like wild time, and it got I know Florida was a bit different, but up here in BC, Canada, it was pretty intense, and it was a lot of division, and it was really hard, and we were told it was not safe to gather, and so we decided to gather. We decided that because we were being told that, and it's not lost on me, lost on us that, like, we think about centuries ago when we were told it was not safe to gather as women, so we decided to do it anyway, and we decided to host something called a Sovereign Sisters Wild Plunge right on the Pacific Ocean, and just have a sister circle on the ocean and jump into the ocean together in January in the Pacific Northwest. And we were like, maybe 10 women will come. I don't know. And we didn't have a website. We didn't have an Instagram account. We asked everyone to keep it off of social media because we weren't sure if we would get in trouble or like have someone come and shut it down. So it very much rippled grassroots style. And then we ended up with over 50 women on the beach, and we actually ended up capping it because we're like, we don't think we could actually fit like all of us into this spot that we'd picked out. We got like a beachside sauna, and it was magical. It was so good. There were so many tears and so many just like people just feeling this community. So it started as just us gathering our sovereign sisters really close during a time, these women that were seeing the truths of this world, and seeing something differently as compared to what others were feeling and seeing. And then everyone was like, hey, what's next? And we were like, we didn't plan it past this. Like, we just wanted to gather. So what did we do? And so we kept going, and we kept going with more sister circles. And then we wanted to, a big piece for us of this is being deeply grounded in sacredness, of like honoring the land and all of our spiritualities, like we've already had our conversation with, like, in a variety of what that might be. So this deep sacredness, along with sovereign living, these skills and learnings that our great grandmothers used to pass on to us that have been, somewhat forgotten or deemed insignificant along the way. So we've, done lots of different gatherings on foraging or medicine making or honoring our feminine cycles and astrology, and just really trying to harness both of those with what we do with our in-person gatherings, outside of Vancouver, Canada. But then also we started our online community because we were like, we don't want to wait to the next gathering to like connect with these women and build our community. There's so much magic that happens in between the circles and in between the gatherings. So we started our online community called The Village. And in that space now we do a Sacred Pause online circle every month. And we also have a wise woman in our community lead a workshop in there every month, where it's, because we're just in awe of the women in our community and the wisdom they hold. And there's women who are astrologers and, herbalists and nurses and chiropractors and somatic healers. And, there's just so gardeners like that just are amazing at growing food. Like, we were never meant to do all of this alone. We were never meant to know everything, to make this happen. But we were meant to be in a village so that we can harness the wisdom and the sacredness from each sister that is in our village together. So that is a very long way of explaining what we are, what we do. But essentially, we're just like we're a village. We're a collective of women who are just really prioritizing and grounding deeply into sovereignty and sacredness, and prioritizing sisterhood and community, even when we're told not to, even when we're told that, it's not safe to, we do it anyway.
Yes, yes. That's very powerful. with the connection to, it's not the first time we've been told that we can't gather and it's not safe to, and then you do it anyways. And that definitely had part in healing some sort of person in your ancestry, or multiple people in your ancestry and other people's ancestries as well, of being able to relive this moment. So it was a very beautiful story. It was a very beautiful insight into the birth of this and how it was very synchronistic and how it came about and very meant to be. It's kind of like the stars aligned for it to be able to flourish and grow. And I guess the follow-up question that I have for that would be kind of like, individually, since we already know what the Sacred Uprising is about and the village, you have an online community, the village, and then, well, first of all, where do you usually have your in-person gatherings?
Those our in-person gatherings are like all around outside of Vancouver, Canada right now, where we live just outside of Vancouver. And so they're kind of all over there is where our in-person events happen
Cool.
right now, so far.
Ooh. Room for expansion, room for expansion. Yes. So we're definitely gonna manifest, because today we're recording this on the A8 portal. So
I
expansion
know.
for them. The question that I wanted to ask before I asked about the location was, we know what the Sacred Uprising is about and the beautiful journey it's had. And then now, to take a step back from that, what led you to want to start working in community and sisterhood? Was it the sea stuff? Or was it something else that called you to do that beforehand? Yeah.
Do you want to start, Christina?
Sure. So just to clarify, just how we even got here, like what it, so the beginning of where Heather started, where Heather and I had met, and you know, what happened, the wild times in the last, I won't say the word, but what happened in the last like number of years, I'm deeply grateful. It was deeply painful and deeply healing. And I would not be where I am if it wasn't for that. Heather and I would not be sitting here, I believe, with you if it wasn't for what happened. And so it's so interesting because in 2019, so for me individually, like 2019 felt like one of the most difficult, challenging, heavy years because there were some big things happening in the government and just that they were trying to crack down on some stuff and do things that really violated our personal our privacy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that whole year felt really intense for me. 2018, just as a contrast, was probably the best year of my life. Like it was the most joyous year. And then 2019 hit and it felt like, okay, warrior mode, like what is going on? It felt I was scared most of the year of like what would be happening to my family and then it's so interesting. I had intuitively, I was like, something big is happening. Like there's something big happening. And then 2020 hit and I was like, oh, this is what it was. Got it. Okay. And for some wild reason, like there was a bit of me in the beginning that felt quite fearful. And it was like the weight of the world was on my shoulder. And then I did something, there was something that happened, and I intentionally just released all of it. And it was like the weight of the world was off of my shoulder and I wasn't living in fear anymore. And actually, 2020 was also painful and all the things. It was weird and wild and confusing and what is going on. It felt uncertain, but also it was the part of me knew that this is what had to happen. And then I believe it was, 2020, the word that was really coming through for me was community.
Mm-hmm.
Like you start like the Gregorian year, January 1st with like a word comes to you. And that was the word in 2020, I think 2021 was community. And it really was. And it wasn't just me, like it was a collective. I felt it. I think we both felt it. Like, sure, maybe you did too. Like community was coming through for a lot of people, a lot of women, I feel. And that was the year that Heather and I met. And then I think our first wild plunge was actually the first full moon in January of 2022. And so I feel like, you know, how we came together was so incredibly divine, you know, like we were talking about earlier with, you know, there's no coincidences. I'm getting like truth bumps all over my body, even as I just say this.
Me too, me too.
And we were meant to meet. Like walking into that circle in her basement, and you know, I remember walking up and she's like, bring your drum. And I was like, okay, I'm going to a circle. It was like, I'm asked to bring my drum. Like, yes, who is this? Yes, like this is my person. This is my people. I don't know who I'm going to meet. And then I go in and I see all these like beautiful sisters that I had known from like different places. So it was like, it was so divine. And then I get this message from Heather about organizing like a plunge, and I had already like that had already come through, like that was happening, and she somehow was like, let's do it. I'm like, how did you know that I had been thinking this? And she just messages me and like, let's make this happen. And it's like, yeah, okay. So all of it was just it was, I don't even know how to explain any of it away other than we were divinely. And I think about it actually as the birth. I like to use this way of describing it as like the sacred uprising. She is like her own being and entity and vibration and frequency. And Heather and we actually started off with another sister in the community, Jacqueline. The three of us initiated all of this in the very beginning. And but the three of us came together, and it was all just so divine. So the sacred uprising, like we felt the call to birth her, and it was almost like we there was no choice in it. Like there was just this insanely strong pull to birth her into, with no blueprint of what this was going to become or how it was going to unfold or what we should do. But I feel like each of us just kept listening to the call and what was coming through to help like her grow, because she was giving us these and continues to give us these like whispers of like, and we continue to listen of like, what does she want? What does the collective want? And then doing that.
Yeah. It's so nice to also hear the story, and because I know for sure maybe like in the moment it all felt aligned and there might have been some doubts or some questions, but it's also very powerful to look at it from a back view and just see everything that's aligned, and it's like you don't question it once you've lived it and you've seen the results and you've seen where it's taken you. But sometimes in the moment it might, right? You might be like, is this supposed to be the way that it's supposed to be? Like, are we really meant to be birthing this big community? Are we really going to be like this successful? And here you are now looking at everything. It's like, of course we were. Look at that. Everything was synchronistic. Like everything was soul led, spirit led, God led, you know, like creator led. So it's just, if anything, if anyone's listening to this, I hope that this serves you, the listener, as a reminder that you're supported by invisible things. Going back to going against what's being told and coming together as women. I've felt this personally, and I want to ask you guys your take on healing and going on a spiritual journey, on a healing journey, on a self-help, self-healing, self-love, self-care, all of the little self journeys individually versus doing it in a community setting with other sisters. Like, have you seen differences personally? Have you seen differences in the people that show up and come to you? What are your takes on that?
I think something really beautiful that we witnessed, and And like what Christina was saying, like this was very much like we didn't have a plan. It wasn't like we mapped out Q1, Q2, and like all of the things for what this would look like. We really did follow like the seat of our souls. You know, we we're flying by the seat of our souls during all of this. And we pivoted as things were not feeling in alignment. And when we started doing sister circles with it, because at first it was just, you know, we were doing these gatherings with like foraging and like medicine making and things like that. And it felt really good. And then I can't even remember when the call for sister circle to include into it. Like we've always had a sister circle element to every single gathering, even from like the very first one, but to actually just be like, okay, we're going to start doing sister circles, you know, like, and it just like, I can't even remember the exact moment that happened, but we started doing them. And then we started realizing that this was a key piece with this community. Because as you're growing a community with women, you know, what can often, there's different elements that can come up for every single one of us. You know, we all have our own stories and wounds when it comes to other women. And being in a space with a lot of other women can actually be like, you know, like, and I actually believe that healing sister wounds is like a big piece of like one of the key things I'm meant to work through in this lifetime. It's been like a big one for me. And so what has been beautiful to witness that was not something we planned, like, hey, we're going to do these sister circles and watch everyone heal their sister wounds, and like, you know, like that wasn't like the plan with it. But I remember like the very first circle that we did that was a very intentional circle for us to do. It pulled up a bunch of sister wounds between Christina and I, and we ended up like really just like moving through. And I feel like that's when like our like souls really connected after that, that we were like, whoa, like we both like showed up and like bawled a lot and talked through the different things that were coming up for us, and came out of it just like this stronger friendship, you know, this like beautiful, like beyond friendship, like sisters. Like it was very much like sisters. And we were like, whoa, like that is incredible. And now we just have a different relationship now. When things are coming up, we bring them up right away. And there's no pointing fingers or judgment. Like we're like, this is coming up for me. I know this is my stuff, but I'm just going to name it and talk it through. And we realized that us, like while we were creating this community, you know, and creating these sister circles, every time that we circle together as women, and every time that we are not mean girled, or, you know, you feel so safe, like, and held with that piece of you heals a little bit more and a little bit more. And it's hard. And there are some women who will sign up for a sister circle and then cancel last minute and do that. Like we've had women do that like for months before they finally sit in circle with us, because there's so much coming up for them in coming and sitting in circle. So there's the healing work that we're doing. Again, it was not planned that that's what we were doing, but Christina and I did it together. We're still doing it together. And then we're witnessing the women in our community do it together. And it's so incredible to watch these women that have been with us from the beginning, who are working, you know, like healing these wounds, whether they realize it or not, and then watching them show up differently in life, in business, like showing up just like in this beautiful, more authentic, seen way, allowing themselves to be visible in a way they may never have felt comfortable to be that visible before. So it's really beautiful to witness that. I don't know if I would have ever healed the sisterhood wounds. I don't believe so, actually. I'm going to very boldly say that had I not been, you know, had we not been doing this work, like in community, in a sister circle with Christina, like if I'd been leading the Sacred Uprising on my own, those wounds would not have healed. I could not even imagine running this out without Christina. But like I would never have healed those wounds. So like doing this work in community just like oh my goodness, we amplify it. Our healing work is amplified when we do this in community. And even like as in a circle, you witness a sister moving through something, there's a part of you that moves through that too, you know? Like we're just mirrors for each other, and it's so beautiful. And every time you're in that safe element of sisterhood, it just becomes like more and more apparent, like that the healing just goes deeper and deeper. I don't know if that answered your question, Ashley.
Oh yeah, yes, definitely. Because I also agree, you can journal about like your sisterhood all you want, or your sisterhood wound all you want. But it's not necessarily your awareness of the sisterhood wound that's gonna help you work through it. It's more so you moving emotionally, experientially through the wound that's gonna help you surpass that. Um, and going back to what you said earlier too, we're meant to live in community. You know, like a jack of all trades is a master of none. So like you're gonna have someone in your community who's gonna be very good with textiles, very good with fabrics, and then they're the queen of getting everybody dressed up. You're gonna have somebody else that's gonna be very, very good at healing, and that's the medicine woman that heals the community whenever they're sick. You're gonna have a couple of people that are really good at cooking, and I'm sure that you would rather them cook than you who suck cook for yourself. So like we're all supposed to take each other's strengths and utilize them together as this beautiful beehive collective to work and grow. And the sad part I feel like is now with the way society is structured, it's more about the winner is what matters. That one person that wins is at the top is what matters. But the reality is that if we all work together, we all win, period.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
collaboration over competition has always been just like such a powerful motto for us. It's why we always want women, like we brought women in to lead the Wise Sisters. Like Christina and I have a lot of skills between us. We could probably do some stuff. But, you know, like there's so many women, you know, and so we want people to see what their wisdom and their work and what they're creating, you know? So it's always been about collaboration over competition. And there's been a lot of competition in the last, you know, decades, hundreds of years, you know, like when it comes to women and what they're creating.
yes, so going off of competition, Christina, do you want to expand maybe on competition, how competition has shown up for you in different circles of women, maybe how you've been able to overcome that feeling of competition versus collaboration?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I shared that in 2021, it was community, like the big word that came through. And in 2022, the big word that came through was collaboration, and how we lead this community is really through collaboration. That was a big word that was coming through for me. And so right from like the birth of all of this, it has been about collaboration. And competition, I mean, ooh, I mean, it is so big. Where do I even go with it? You see it even so in our community, we have an aligned business directory, which showcases the beautiful businesses in our community. And in that, there's no competition, let's say. There's going to be a lot of nutritionists. There's going to be a lot of energy healers. There's going to be a lot of all different kinds of restaurants, or maybe even astrologers. Like there's so many beautiful women have like similar gifts. And coming from a place, and I feel like it's like a rewiring that we need to do to understand that each one of us has such a unique gift to us, that although I'm a nutritionist and Heather's a nutritionist, I'm not practicing with my nutrition practice right now anyways, but if I was, There would be no competition because the people that were meant to come to me would come to me and they would resonate with me and love me up and I would love them up. And the people that weren't meant to be with me would, be with Heather or somebody else. But that's hard to, we can say that, but it's also hard. Like we have to work through our own like ego and, oh my gosh, I'm not liked, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. Like all these wounds that can surface around competition. And I feel like really it's just practice and just this like practice and embodiment and then being around a community that practices that. And we support each other and we lift each other up. And we even have events sometimes that are going on the same day. And it's like, well, that's cool. Like, our event might resonate with you and or another, like it's and but it's so ingrained in our that we have to compete, but it's coming from this place of scarcity and this mentality of lack and even just it's work and it's work, but it's I think also being in community and making that your intention that that's just not what you do, and so you take actions and steps to sort of dissolve that. And I don't think that it happens overnight, and it's an icky admission to even say, oh, like I feel like your competition, as feminine leaders, Heather and I, as feminine leader, and anyone who is, willing to do the work or lead in this way, it's how you show up too. It's the actions that you take that really lead the way for other people to see, oh, that's the way. Oh, that's the way. We don't have to be in competition. And also circle. Circle is just a beautiful symbol of equality, right? There's no hierarchy in circle. We're literally, all in circle. So yeah. Heather, did you feel like there was anything else you wanted to share about that?
I think you covered it, but yeah, I feel like we're working on the competition in our community just by, mirroring like what true collaboration looks like with it. And we like when we like that aligned business directory that Christina talked about, we had people who were like, hey, can I be your only this in that? And we were like, no. Like there is abundance for all of us in business and in life, and we want every women's business who is in our community, if they would like it featured here, there's always space for them. So so just mirroring that type, choosing collaboration over competition and celebrating other women who are also leading circles and also leading communities and things and stuff. Like Christina said, stuff comes up, like it still comes up for both her and I, and we're like but that awareness of like, okay, I see you, like there's such power in acknowledging those sticky pieces that come up for us. Like there's such power even if we do nothing else but acknowledge, like when they do come up, there's like beautiful healing in that. And we'll just keep showing up and keep doing that work and watching the ripple.
Yes, that's beautiful. And that's also another one that you kind of have to sit with. I you guys have said so many beautiful and wonderful things, especially with like naming it, like going back to what you guys were talking about regarding like when sisterhood things come up that are yours, like just naming it helps. And sometimes it is icky, like how Christina mentioned with like saying, oh, competition is coming up. But then going back to what Heather said, it's like just naming it out there. Sometimes saying it out loud brings this sense of relief. It's like, oh, this is it. And I can voice it, which means that I'm acknowledging it, like for real. And I can sit with this. And something else that I was thinking about when you guys were speaking about competition and like opening up space for other people to lead and that everybody can do this at once is I went to this event where it was this big, well, for lack of a better word, well, it is this. It was a seance. It was a seance pretty much. It was a very beautiful container where we all came in with a beautiful intention of love and connecting with our honorable ancestors. And there was a main person leading this. She's great. She's amazing. She's, oh my God, she's great. And she opened up the floor for other women that were in the community, other people that were in the community to also channel messages as well, because we were all connecting to the same source. She's leading it, but we were all connecting to the same source. And then different people would say different messages as they came through while she was giving the main message as well. And that's what it brought me back to, you know, like we can't pretend that we are the sole healer of the world. Like that's a lot to put on your own shoulders. That's a lot.
Mhm. Yeah, it's I even think about tonight we have like our August sacred pause, and just like yesterday Christina was like, let's call in, this woman in our community to lead the meditation. She is so good. She is like very in tune. It's Lionsgate. Christina and I often will plan things and accidentally plan them on like huge astrological things without us even, because we're not astrologers, so it's not
Yeah.
something that we do, but like we'll like the amount of times that we plan something accidentally, we're obviously divinely guided, on Lionsgate is pretty incredible.
Mhm.
Like, and so we have one. And so yesterday she was like, let's call in, this beautiful woman from our community to like to lead it. And I'm like, yes, let's do it. It's like, could either one of us lead the meditation? Totally. But like we know the magic that comes from this woman and just felt special. And like we wanted people to feel her specialness as well. And so it felt like a full body yes for both of us to invite her in to lead for us tonight and lead the guided meditation. So we love it, and we're bringing in like with our gatherings like more and more collaborations and like which increases visibility for everyone. Like it's something we're feeling really called to with our gatherings.
Yes, that's beautiful. And then we're also coming close-ish to the end of the episode. So I wanted to ask you guys too, because I wanted to ask this as well. You're both mothers, so how does it look like to also take on motherhood and sisterhood wounds and a spiritual practice? Like, how does that look like for you guys, or what have you had to go through as you are also holding these spaces for other people?
Yeah, you know what? Uh, I feel like this is for me, and for me, I'm just going to speak for myself. I technically run two businesses. I have my nutrition business, and then the Sacred Uprising along with Christina, and I homeschool our daughter. And it's and then all of the other things that like play into motherhood and being a wife and and then life and then being a sister and being like having, so there can be a lot that comes in with balance. And I'm going to quote a dear woman in our community, Marjolaine, who just recently said to us during a dancing circle, less control, more magic.
Mm.
And I've literally been repeating it in my brain since she spoke it. And that has been a big one for me, of like gripping too tightly of the control and the masculine elements, and with trying to just like make everything, exactly how I think my brain has decided that it's supposed to look. And so homeschooling looks completely different than what I originally thought that it would be. I never even thought I would be a homeschooling mom. If you would have asked me like the year before we started homeschooling that, if someone told you that, I would have said, I'm not a homeschooling mom. But then I watched my daughter struggle in public school and I was like, all right, here we go, let's do this. And then getting it going and so it's, how we're running the Sacred Uprising is looking way different than I think my original ideas of what this could create. And so me releasing often like this control or this grip has resulted in more magic. And so that's something that I'm still working on though. It is a really, really hard one, even just with me being sick in the last week. Oh my goodness. I'm just like releasing my to-do list. I was like, oh my gosh, but I had like all of this. So that has been a big thing for me, which is like staying in balance. And then I'm realizing, and I feel like this one just came through in the last maybe 3 months about how my spiritual practice is a non-negotiable, like in order to keep me balanced through everything else. So every morning and every night, I do like land acknowledgement, gratitude, and my prayers. Like in the evening, I do it out in the forest. In the morning, I just do it beside my bed. And I don't miss it. Like it's not like even if it's quick, like it's something that is like done on a quicker end because I'm like running out the door. I find a moment to like do that because I know when I skip those practices, in particular, those are like my morning and evening gratitude and prayer practice right now. I know when I'm not doing them, things feel hard. Like I am like not centered. I'm not grounded. I'm just like, ugh. And then sometimes like during the last week when I've been sick, I've been doing them longer. Like my evening has been like laying out in the forest for, I said 10 minutes and now it's an hour, while I do this gratitude and prayer practice. So those are just, I've learned, those when we get really busy, those are like some of the first things that fall off of what we do when I've realized for me that I cannot, like they are the things that I actually need to increase and ramp up more when I'm feeling the stress and the strain of like all of the things. And then I think just staying in alignment, like if things are feeling really hard, things might not be in alignment. Like they're like what you're pushing for might not be what your soul is really calling in and asking for right now. So I like to pause when things are feeling really hard. Yeah, I feel like I could go on and on here with the things. And then actually something else that Christina and I have been getting a lot better at this year is like honoring our cycles of where we're at, and doing this like in partnership with the Sacred Uprising has been so beautiful to experience and witness. Like Christina's in the like if Christina's in the middle of like her moon time and just like, oh my gosh, and I'm like, do you know what, I'm ovulating, I got you today. And vice versa. Like I feel like it's come back around so many times where it's like, oh my gosh, my luteal, I've been feeling like so much with my luteal, and then Christina's like, you know what, I'm feeling really strong right now, I got you. Like the amount of times we've said I got you to each other like is pretty beautiful, and beautiful to honor and just recognize. And things do feel easier when you honor, the flows and the cycles of our bodies and our rhythms. And then teaching that, I have a daughter, and teaching that to her, I think it's important. I know Christina is teaching it to her sons too. So for them to honor, but like, teaching that type of flow to our children, our babies, is just like, that's the key. That's the key in how we keep going from there. Yeah, Christina, I don't know if you want to share.
Yeah, so beautiful. Yes. And yeah, life, there's so many pieces of life. There's so many different like versions of ourselves, not versions, but like different versions. Like we're a mother, and then we're a wife, and then we're a sister, and then, we're a daughter, and then we're like a teacher, or, whatever role we're in. Like there's so many roles. And I think what it comes down to, is making space for for me like the integration piece of all of it, and taking a sacred pause and taking the time to slow down and check in. And my sacred time is, I'm not a morning person, but it is in the morning. Like that is my, I also have a different kind of sacred time at night, but like my sacred time in the morning, to start the day in prayer. I love to journal. And I find that really, or sometimes I can't write as, Heather and I were talking, like I can't write as fast as the stuff that's coming through, and like making voice memos of like what's going on, or typing. I'm just kind of like doing that as like processing what's coming up. And then I find that when stuff is sticky and icky, like really trying to shake it out of my body, like you'll find me just like, like shaking, like even before like I came on today, I was feeling like stuff in my body, and I had been sitting and they'd been in morning, and I was like, I just need, so I'm like shaking and moving, and my neighbors probably think I'm weird, and my family's used to it. Like, and letting the tears flow when they need to flow, taking a bath. I find also I'm really called to be by the, I don't have a river in my backyard or a little forest like Heather, but I'll find my way. I'll just find my way to the river, and I find what come, like the grounding and the messages that come through there, can feel grounding. But yeah, a lot can come up with all of the different pieces. And I think finding, like Heather said, like that, like for her, it's her morning and evening, like making it non-negotiable. And I too, when I don't have my morning prayer, I have a morning prayer and movement, and maybe some journaling, that kind of thing. But I definitely notice when I don't, and I've got other practices too, even just like having my lemon juice and water, like those kinds of things that just anchor me into the day and feel like set me up for success, uh, are helpful, really helpful to navigate this wildlife.
Yes, yes, I agree. There was a moment where it was really, really hard for me to be able to go to work. And we're talking about earlier how I'm a teacher, and I was having a really hard time finding balance. So the thing that kept me calm and that I couldn't go without was, for 1 minute every morning before I would leave my house, I would stand on the grass barefoot, whether it's raining outside, whether it's cold outside, at least 1 minute. If I stay out there for 5, I need the 5 minutes, that's fine. But if I'm running out of time, because maybe I woke up late or something, if I at least touch the grass and the ground with my toes, I'll be fine. And that helped me during the harder times. That's what I do. I'm like, all right, Mother Earth, Mama Earth, like hold me, help me out. I don't know. And that pause is so important. That's very, very, it's very needed. And I love to hear from you both as mothers that the spiritual practice is like non-negotiable, because it's okay for it to be non-negotiable, because that's a part of how you're able to show up for everybody else by you feeding into yourself.
One of the things I actually wanted to add too, I think when we first started all of this, and just as mothers, when I first started to leave my babies and go and be in circle and sisterhood and be with my sisters, there's a lot of guilt that was involved, like I'm leaving my family and all these pieces, and really coming to this realization, like knowing in my bones like how important it is, and how almost like that's a non-negotiable, that I need to be with my sisters. It fills my cup and nourishes me in ways that like I just can't get from my partner, my husband, or my children. And not to say that, but we like my children fill me up like my partner can. My partner, like there's just, and so spending time with my sisters, and even if sometimes it feels icky moving through stuff, like that is so important, a part of my journey, that I feel is so important, and a non-negotiable. But it was met, and much less now with, releasing the guilt of being away with my family and knowing that, and explaining and sharing with them how important it is as well, and how it fills my cup and nourishes me, so that I can then show up for them in a more fulfilled, full place, right? And not, feel depleted or feel like I haven't filled my own cup. So having these non-negotiables, these moments in the morning or night or whenever, having your moment on the grass, which I agree, like just being on Mother Earth is just, that's it. Nothing else, just you and her. Yeah, I feel that too. Having those non-negotiables and not feeling guilty for having that time and space, because it's so foundational to show up in the best version of ourselves in the world.
Yeah, my daughter actually, she's almost 9, and she's pretty much 6 months out of the year entirely barefoot. And by entirely barefoot, I mean we go into a grocery store and she's barefoot. We go into a restaurant and she's barefoot. Like, she does not wear shoes for like a big hunk of the year, like when it's summer and nice outside. And I feel like sometimes kids are just smarter than we are. Like, they just, or just willing to just be like, this feels really good, so I'm gonna do it. And I don't care. That's kind of like her vibe for sure. Just the barefoot. Oh my goodness. So powerful.
That's so cute. I'm just imagining like a little fairy girl just walking around, giving everybody
That's
flowers.
exactly what she's like. I'm gonna send you a picture after, Ashley.
Yes.
It's actually funny. She'll jump off a rock or something and go like this, like with her hands.
Oh, that's so cute.
And the first time she did it, she was like, "Oh, it helps me land softer, like when I go like this." Like, okay, sure. Why not? Why not?
Oh, that's so cute. Oh, yes. So now that we're wrapping up the interview for the podcast, do you guys have anything that you would like to share with those that are listening about how to honor your sisterhood time, how to honor your sisterhood wounds, and how to honor like the path and the journey that you go through while you're going through being in community, being in sisterhood, and honoring your own spiritual practice?
Mm. Oh, that's big. I feel, just in a nutshell, do you know what? I think when it comes to just like honoring the journey, honoring the things that are coming up, I think the key piece around that is just showing up. Like keep showing up in circle, keep showing up, or even if you're at that woman right now that I described earlier, who keeps registering but canceling, like keep registering, like, and keep showing up in that way. I remember the very first sister circle I attended. It was probably like 8 years ago. And I remember bawling my eyes out through the whole thing. And I was like, what is going on? And I was just bawling my eyes out. And the facilitator came up to me at the end of it and asked me if I was okay. And I was like, I don't know why I'm crying. I'm so sorry. There's nothing wrong in my life right now. Everything is good. And she was like, it's like sometimes when we sit in circle together, and especially if this is your first one, which for me it was like a full body remembering, and then like grieving, like, times when we couldn't gather, and like grieving, like, elements from like past lineages and witch and sister wounds and all of that. I felt like I felt it like all just like really deeply. So I feel like I could have at that moment been like, whoa, this is messed up. This is too hard. I'm out. I am so out. I am not doing this anymore. But I didn't. I kept going to different sister circles, and then ended up, hosting my own. And then Christina and I, like we kind of have a formula in our sister circles now as well. Like it's not just like we get together and we sit in this circle and we talk about our feelings. That's used to be how I like when I first led Sisterhood Circle, that was kind of what it was. But now just, with the gifts that we both of us like bring to Circle, we do different like nervous system things to help us like everyone like reset. We always start in song to help activate everyone's throat chakra, which then stimulates the vagus nerve, which is the gut brain connection. We always have a movement piece, and it always happens after the first share, because we know that as women are sharing, things come up. Even if you don't share, things will come up as you're witnessing others. So we always move our body afterwards. We have a formula for sister circles now that we've created, in order to like, while this stuff is coming up, to kind of like reset ourselves like into that. So yeah. Christina, I don't know if you have anything to add.
I just feel, yeah, the circle piece and the healing of sister wounds and just being in this space in all of our mess and all of our beauty and feeling safe in a feeling safe. And I think that that has come up a lot with the women in our community, not feeling safe around other women because of competition or betrayal and all these, so much that has come up, maybe in this lifetime, and what we hold in our body and our DNA from our ancestors too. And so by doing this work that we can right now in this lifetime, that we can do this work, we're healing wounds from our ancestors. Our ancestors are like cheering us on, being, yes, like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And also healing it for future generations. And I feel like that's really what like drives us too, is it's not just, it's just so big, this healing that happens, that we heal like ourselves in this lifetime, healing our ancestral wounds, and then also helping to pave a way forward for future generations to normalize circling. There's this beautiful book by Jean Shinoda Bolin, called The Millionth Circle. And it's when it's just becomes, circling, let's say, just becomes so normalized that when that like millionth circle happens, there's just something energetic that just like tips. It's like the tipping point where there's just like a massive shift globally and beyond, right? So the more we circle and the more we intentionally circle, we're creating this like beautiful ripple. There's just so much healing that happens. And it is hard. It's not always easy to show up to circle. It's not like, they can be very glorified and it is really beautiful, but also a lot shows up and it can feel really icky and messy. But there's so much beauty on the other side, so much like more freedom in so many ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yes.
I think like one of the most beautiful, when I get really excited when I hear a woman who came to one of our circles who was like, I had a really bad day, so I decided to come to circle, like, because we always think we have to show up in gathering as like the best version of ourselves, when sometimes that is not what happens, and we show up in circle exactly as we are. So it's like, I know a woman gets it when she's like, oh, I had a really bad day, so I needed to come tonight to make sure that I attended. And Jess was held in safety, and it's so amazing.
It's beautiful when you're in community like that too, because when you are with the icky stuff, sometimes we're not meant to move through that on our own. We might be meant to mirror somebody else, or somebody else mirror us through that healing. And I've been a part of a lot of different communities, not necessarily communities, but event where we see one person working through something, and then everybody's yawning, everybody's like sneezing and burping and like clearing physically, just because that one person is going through their own individual, super personalized thing in the middle of this thing. But yet we're all healing an aspect of ourselves by watching and holding space for this person as well. The power of community.
That is so powerful, because sometimes we can't even verbalize what's going on. We don't have the language. We can't even understand what's going on. And then we hear somebody else share and go through it and process it out loud. And you're like, yes, that's me. Wow, I've never even been able to like figure that out. And you just helped me have this like big revelation or whatever. So yeah, like you said, it's so powerful to be in community, and we weren't meant to do this alone.
Mm-hmm. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my God, I have to show up in community today, where can people find you in the Sacred Uprising?
Yeah, we have our free online community. So we have our village membership that we've kind of been talking about. But if you want to kind of like just dabble into or start, dipping your toes in and seeing what we're about, if you sign up for our email list on our website, which is thesacreduprising.com, then you get a invitation link to join our free censorship-free online platform. And then you get access to, we have like meetups there. We have like a community marketplace for everyone to post. There's just a community chat, our aligned business directory that we were already talking about. You can check it out there. So yeah, that's probably the best place to kind of connect with us.
Perfect. So I'll have the website in the show notes. And then that way people can sign up for your email list, get that link, and then check you guys out and be in community as we all heal sisterhood wounds.
Amazing.
Well, thank you guys for being here with me today and for sharing your gift to the world and the big changes that you're providing for collective healing and just, sisterhood, empowerment, and sovereignty.
Thank you, Ashley. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. You are a gem.
Thank you.
Wow, how are you guys feeling after this beautiful share? Share in the comments below. Let me know what sparked up inside of you as you were listening to the conversation regarding healing sisterhood today. And again, if you feel like someone would benefit from this conversation, this podcast episode, go ahead and share this with them, like, subscribe, and don't forget that if you go to the show notes, you'll be able to find a link to their Instagram page as well as their website. And on their website, you'll be able to sign up for their newsletter that is free, or be able to even also sign up for their free community that they have as well. If you're looking for the membership already and you're like, I'm ready, I want to go dive head into this, you can also find all that information on their website. But thank you again for being here, for listening. I hope that all of these beautiful conversations have been able to plant different seeds within your soul that are blossoming slowly but surely. And remember to water your own seeds, to water your own self, and to nourish yourself, and give yourself some sunlight, even if it's just 5 minutes a day. That way you can grow and blossom into the person that you truly want to be today. Until next time.